In the previous video, we talked about how the connection between the Levant, the Rhine, and Algeria all came together to make France a little more formal in its empire over Algeria. And that being said, I indicated I wanted to make a protectorate, but no, that would cause the Algerian crisis. For better or for worse, once France takes Algeria, it must hold on to it. That is the rule in Victoria III. And it was the rule in France in that when they finally did let go of Algeria, it led to a change of government, not just a new party in power, but a brand new republic. But that's for another era. What I want to look at right now is what I have here in North Africa is anything but an informal empire. It's a formal one because I have hit the limits of the informal empire strategy, much as France hit those limits in 1870. So what were the factors that led to both my hitting the limit and France's hitting the limit? Let's discuss. Number one has to be a change in government. When Napoleon III was captured at Sedan, it led to a fall of his government. What replaced him were liberals. That is, people who wanted to improve human rights, who wanted to not censor the press. They wanted free speech. They wanted the Catholic Church out of government. They wanted to have a number of things that we would consider, well, liberal. What the liberals did not want, though, was a dedication to free trade and hands-off business approach. They saw trouble with business leaders who abuse the system, to externalize things, to not pay people as much as they should have been paid, and so forth. Although that's a normative call there. I don't want to get into all of that, but let's just say that the liberal movement in France was liberal for human rights and things of that sort, but not for business freehand. Whereas the conservatives in France limited the human rights, but were more open as far as what business policy would be. They wanted free trade. They wanted laissez-faire economics. But the government has shifted from the conservative right to the liberal left in France, both in history in 1870 and in my game just the year previous, 1861 here. What else has happened? Reverses politically in history here, our history. France had been on a slide during the 1860s. It wasn't just suddenly in 1870 everybody woke up and realized, oh, Napoleon III is out. I guess we can't be, cool with the French anymore. Rather, during France's occupation of Mexico, there was an erosion of French national prestige that they'd built up to a high point in the outcome of the Crimean War. That was Napoleon III's big time there, how he was able to orchestrate so many things in Europe. He was at the high point there, but Mexico really undermined his authority. And as a result of increasing unrest within his own government, Napoleon III is having to rule by dictate, and he is in constant argument with political forces in his country. So he's already weakening there. And that political reverse of the loss of Mexico as a protectorate just really broke his power to the point where he was so desperate to build it back up again that he took Bismarck's bait with the Ems dispatch and declared war on Prussia. Yeah, that didn't end well for Napoleon III. Well, okay, how many diplomatic reverses have I endured here as France? Well, not many, but I've had a few. Number one, I had goals to take over in Persia. That didn't happen. I'm late to the game there. I did build the Suez Canal. I did get a treaty port in China. I did get a little bit of Indonesia. But at the same time, I'm watching Britain assimilate its empire. This used to be a protectorate in Tibet. Now it is the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland and Tibet too. and parts of northern India have swollen Britain's population. I'm watching this little island here grow much beyond where it was before. It's surpassing me in GDP. It's surpassing me in GDP per person. It's spreading more of its formal empire. Consequently, the the need to increase France's political strength as well as military strength. I looked to North Africa and said it's time to turn those puppets into actual parts of the empire, make them formally owned. So that way I would build up the military power of France directly. It's nice to have a puppet army, but it's even nicer to have one that is fully armed, fully trained, fully ready to go with your modern military standards. So I brought them in. They had substantial forces. For the Arabian ones, they're kind of light. For Tahiti, it's quite light out there. There's no need to make them formally part of the empire. They can remain what they are, as they are. But there was a sufficient manpower here that it meant that, yes, we should bring them into the empire. Because there's another diplomatic reverse. The formation of the North German Confederation. Now, this was very disappointing to me in the game, because I had helped Prussia originally in a war, but because Prussia couldn't reach its target, that is Bavaria, directly, there's too much Saxony and Hesse in the way, I didn't get my little bit of Prussian Rhine, or of Bavarian Rhineland. And then Prussia becomes the North German Confederation anyway, and it makes a protectorate out of Bavaria, which was the goal in that war. So it got what it wanted, but I didn't get what I wanted. There was no quid pro quo. This is something that Napoleon III wanted. If Prussia formed a North German Confederation, he wanted Belgium. He wanted Luxembourg. He even wanted the Rhineland. The Prussians weren't going to give him that. They were happy to give him anything that the French were speaking, anywhere where French was spoken, but not where German was spoken. But I've suffered a reverse here, and we've had the government leave because there was a war, and it just got too heavy for them, and they just took off. And so I have this republic, and now that the conservatives have fallen from power and the liberals are voted in, they want to make some changes. And this is true of France as well. After Napoleon III was out, they looked around and saw that Vienna was becoming popular. It was rivaling France for being a place of finery and wealth, and where you can go to get good stuff. Germany was certainly forming a greater power. England was becoming a senior partner, it seemed. And there was a crisis of French confidence. They were even going around thinking, looking at their birth rate, which had stagnated for generations, and were openly asking, "Are we going to disappear? Have we as a nation lost our virility? Are we no longer able to project power and majesty on the world stage?" And certainly after losing Mexico and being defeated by Prussia, it looked as though maybe that was the case. So the reaction to that, build France up from within. Let's not worry about trade so much. Now, for my purposes, trade is working out very well. I'd like to keep that going, this trade with England, because it also means a good relationship with England. But it did mean that I had to end the informal empire in North Africa to bring those military forces, integrate them into France's, so that way I could use them against the Prussians, because I know they're coming for me. It used to be, if I was to look at how the other nations view me, Prussia was a much lighter shade of green. Now they say I'm an unknown factor. No longer viewing me as a desirable ally, I'm an unknown factor. This means things are changing. There's a sea change in Prussia. They no longer need France to help them build up their empire. They've got the North German Confederation. Now France is a potential rival, or becoming a potential rival. I need to read the tea leaves here. Thankfully, Germany, I already enjoy very good relations with. So they're going to have to do a lot of things to damage them if they want to come at me and take a little bit of my country. Right now they're in a war with Russia. That slows them down. I can use this time to build up French power, but that is building it up without informal empire. The informal empire gives me wealth. The formal empire gives me power. Informal empire is very cheap to maintain. In fact, you make a profit off of every little protectorate you have. You get a little bit of money coming in, and you really don't have anything going out. To maintain formal colonies, a lot more money goes in, very little comes back. But what I get in terms of soldiers I can employ, fleets that I can build and staff, this is what I need right now. That's the currency I need, not cash, military power. Well, what have we got here? As far as the trade networks go, I'm working on bringing Brazil into the market, but I've got this lovely French market here that includes Egypt, Spain, southern Italy, Mexico, and because of Spain, I also get the Philippines. It's quite nice. But you'll also notice another element has fallen out. Piedmont, Sardinia, Piedmont, which would be not a diplomatic reverse for historical France, but a diplomatic reverse for my France. Because if you look at what happened there, yes, they say they're in the Piedmontian market, but they no longer view France as, or rather, if I go back over here and come back to France, let's go there. Okay, they still look at me kind of as a desirable ally, but they're also, if I click over to them, looking at Austria as someone that they could work with. And that means, yeah, they're playing both sides here. They're trying to grow out Italy, and they're playing both sides there. I'm losing my Italian ally, if I ever had it, and Germany is no longer a good friend. It's becoming stronger. These are the things, and the political shift. These are the things that end the informal empire, both in our actual history and in this simulation here. So, well done, Paradox. You've made something that really carries through with these different philosophies. Now, if we only had that 1.7 DLC, but I digress. What must France do at this juncture? Now that we've hit the limits of the informal empire and we're talking about building out the formal empire, where do we go? Number one, I already dealt with building out military power, getting the armies, getting the navies. I've got to really expand those. I need to make much larger forces domestically, so if and when we have a war with Germany, I have more soldiers under a single command to act effectively. This is a concept you need to keep aware of in the game, that as the years go by, the armies get bigger. And that was a historical thing. Armies will get much larger. You will need to have more force under your command to make an effective play here. If we have 300 battalions on each side, but one of them has it under a unified command and the other has it under 10 different commands, the unified command has an advantage in warfare. So larger armies. It's nice having the ones that are 65 because they fit on a fleet of 70. I may keep one or two for purposes of naval invasion, but I've also got to build up land-only forces. So that's one, the military power. Number two, I need to secure better natural resources. Now, I know coming into the future there will be oil in Libya, Algeria, Arabia. I've got that, but where is my rubber going to come from? I've got a little bit here in Borneo. I've got a little bit in West Africa. I've got nothing out here. Nothing. I need to start acquiring areas that will give me rubber that I will seek. How to do that? Well, Oman is having a bit of a problem here. They've got a religious revolt going on, but maybe I need to get them out so that ends a religious revolt so I can get Zanzibar and start working on East Africa. That's going to be important. Persia, they've got more oil. They've also got opium, which is needed for medical uses. I've got to get Persia. I've got to get East Africa. I need to do something about these West African nations and get them brought in because they've got rubber as well. What will happen is once we get to the discovery of the colonial mission in the game, we get to the mindset of the 1880s that dictated Africa should be partitioned. There was the Berlin Conference of 1884 where the map of Africa was drawn up and nations were told go and take only what you were supposed to take. Yeah, and they kept from having border clashes for some time, which was, pretty well done there. Well, that mindset of let's take all this stuff is not yet here. But once it's there, then we can create the colonial governments in East Africa, West Africa, South, Congo. And so I need to be in position for that. And that may mean knocking over a few smaller African nations for the purpose of later putting them into this colonial government that will engage in resource extraction, but with my levels of technology, not the local ones there. They don't have pump jacks. They don't have all the cool stuff that my nation has. And when I form the colonial company, that'll get the rubber out, oil, whatever we need. They'll pull it out and send it back home. And that is, again, an element of informal empire. Rather than have it be directly administered, let there be some local autonomy, even if it is Europeans working with the locals to act like they have autonomy. But nevertheless, it is an element of an informal empire when we build out those colonial organizations. So that's coming. I don't like starting the scramble for Africa 20 years too early, but I'm going to have to if I'm going to keep up with the British. Those are my hopes and dreams, but I've also got to be ready to break down the North German Confederation. Any chance I get, if they show weakness, I must strike. But do I want to do it offensively? I think that was Napoleon III's undoing, because he made that offensive attack. Yes, there were lots of things that compelled him to do it, but that led to his ruin. I don't have to be in that same situation. If I'm able to have success in some other political ventures, some other colonial ventures, certainly enacting homesteading, that's about to go through, that will be a political success for this government. It will weaken the opposition. It'll help make other reforms possible. This is a good thing. So once that passes, that's a political success. Success on the foreign stage will also bolster the government, give it the strength it needs to not just have to go in offensively. But if Germany has another war with, let's say, Austria or England, Scandinavia or Russia, I can get involved in that. And by not being an attacker, I'll only take a little bit of Germany, but I'll also fight a war to make sure that it gets weakened. If there are movements for independence in Germany, whether I can make them my direct subject or not, I will support them. So that way pieces of Germany are broken away and it does not have that concentrated force there. Because I know Germany's army may not look like much right now. If we take a look at the strength there, over battalions, they have a strength of 6146, and mine is at 12987. I've got twice the military strength that they do. What do I worry about? Well, once Germany decides that they are no longer interested in being France's partner, they build their army to make France their defeated enemy from a war. We're going to have an arms race. And again, informal empire goes out the window when the arms race starts. All this idea of let's emphasize our luxury goods, our fine art, our wines, that evaporates when we need to talk about our iron, our steel, our coal, our machines, our tools, our rifles, our cannons, our gunboats. Those are not things of royal decadence. Those are things of making sure our nation does not fall prey to the folks on the other side of the Rhine River. Well, actually, they're on both sides of the Rhine River because we don't have Rhineland yet, but well, we'll work on that. we don't want to fall prey to them, so we've got to be able to build out our forces. The limits of informal empire are hit when the government shifts from conservative to liberal, when you've had diplomatic reverses that need a boost of prestige to recover from, and when your neighbors stop being neighborly. You've got to focus on the hard, solid facts of war that are about to emerge and let somebody else be number one at making wine and luxury furniture. You've got to be number one at making motors, cannons, small arms, munitions. I hope this helps out. And those of you who enjoy conflict, let's just wait until the next one to see what has happened. Until next time, I hope all your diplomatic plays go the way you want. I hope I can get France the formal empire it needs to deal with the Germans. And I hope you've learned a fun part of history. Until next time, we'll see you later.